Once you've finished your graphic organizer, you're ready to get started on your final draft. You're simply going to transfer your items over line from line or section by section from your organizer to a Google Doc to be uploaded to Turnitin.com. Before you start writing, you're going to start with an MLA heading. It's going to feature your name, your teacher name, the date, and your period. Following the MLA heading, you're going to follow up with a title. Notice how the title captures two things: the text and what I'm mostly talking about. So I have titled mine The Importance of History in Walker's Everyday Use. You might say something about Afrocentrism in everyday use, or the Black Pride movement in everyday use. Please notice how that title is not in a fancy font, it's not bolded, it's not italicized. Everything in this response should be Times New Roman, 12 font, double spaced. Your double space button is located in your toolbar as the up and down arrow followed by 3 lines. If you click that, we want it to say double. Please do not hit the enter key between each line. When we go to indent our paragraphs, we are using the tab key. We do not hit the space bar 5 times. Please make sure that as you are transferring your work, you are proofreading for things like fluency, focus, capitalization, punctuation, and tense. If you have any questions on how to do those items, please feel free to ask at any time. As you do your Works Cited page, we want to make sure that that is on its own page and not located with the response itself. Please remember that your Works Cited needs to be in alphabetical order, such as E coming before W, and notice how they are not bulleted and they are not numbered. You can just leave them plain as they are. So altogether, our response sounds like, in Everyday Use by Alice Walker, Dee's behavior is motivated by the historical context of the 1960s because she wrongfully changes her name in search of belonging and acceptance to fit in with Afrocentrism. During the 1960s, Afrocentrism makes being African American trendy and popularized, so Dee changes her name to seem in the in crowd of African culture rather than understanding where her real name comes from. Dee says, "No, Mama, not Dee. Wanjero Liwanika Kamanjo, Walker 4. Dee tells her mother that her name stems back to slavery when in reality it is an heirloom that has been passed down to her as it belonged to her aunt and her grandmother. Because she doesn't understand her heritage, she doesn't understand that her name symbolizes her family. If everyday use had taken place in a decade other than the 1960s, I'm not adding that part in, just in case you were tempted to take it." In empowering the Black Power movement from ushistory.org, one of the preeminent providers of online U.S. history, the article explains how African Americans fought against social injustice during the 60s and 70s. The text states how African Americans felt that Blacks needed to feel a sense of racial pride and self respect. Black Power won. After living a life full of stereotypes and racism, many African Americans looked to cultural movements to build their sense of personal worth. Dee changing her name is a prime example of how African Americans in the 1960s looked to and were motivated by Afrocentrism to find positivity and meaning in their lives. To fit in with Afrocentrism and Everyday Use by Alice Walker, Dee's behavior is motivated by the historical context of the 1960s because she wrongfully changes her name in search of belonging and acceptance.